I was sitting out here the other day, and there's this bridge right behind me. And I was just looking that way, watching, like, one kid walked over the bridge, then another, then another. And they seemed really young, really little. I was like, whoa, all those kids are just walking on their own. And it was like 3:15. So I was like, oh, school must have just gotten out. What school would it be? Right over there's a junior high school. So I was like, okay, that sort of makes sense. 10, 11-year-olds, maybe 12-year-olds. But on first seeing them, they just seemed really little to be out in the world on their own. And I guess when I was in junior high, I was already, I rode to school on my own every day. I rode home every day. I'd go to a friend's house and we'd ride our bikes at night and do all sorts of stuff. And I guess at that, whoa. I guess at that age, the world seemed so, like, in the palm of my hand. I seemed so a part of the world. Like, I seemed so ready for everything. When my parents would sort of doubt, like, should we let him go out tonight? Can he do that? Is it all right? I was like, I'm ready for anything. I'll do. Maybe this will help. I'm ready for anything. I can do it. Like, how could you, But watching those kids was just crazy. I was like, wow, I was really little. I can't believe I was doing all those things at that age. It's weird how that perspective changes, And to a certain extent, like, it's hard to know who's right. The kid or the adult. The adult who's like, you're not quite ready for that. Or the kid who's like, Mom, I am ready. This is only tangentially relevant. Very tangentially, like tangential to 3 degrees. But did you know that in Brazil, they actually have, like, regular elementary school kids? Well, I guess I don't know for sure it's elementary, but definitely school kids. There are school kids who half the kids go to school during the morning and half the kids go to school in the sort of late afternoon, evening. Can you imagine? I mean, here in the States, or at least everyone I've ever known, everyone goes to school in the morning. And I remember how much we cherished, like, we'd have late start days sometimes where we'd get to go to school at, 9 instead of 8, or maybe 8 instead of 9, 8 instead of 7. I think we went to school at 8, right? And that 1 hour, it was so precious, it was so beautiful. I mean, the pain that was induced on every single one of us, for the most part, by having to wake up at, 6:30, get to school by 8, was so great. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Like, one of the greatest joys, one of the best things about graduating from high school is finally being able to sleep in. And it's like, I think about all those kids who just didn't have to fight that struggle at all, who just got to go to school in the afternoon, and it's like, wow, it makes you think, like, we put ourselves through all that suffering and we didn't even have to. Like, look at these people over here doing it differently. It makes you wonder how much more engaged everyone would be with high school if it wasn't first thing in the morning. I remember in freshman year of high school, I had the Spanish class, and it had students from every age group, right? So at the front of the classroom, next to I guess technically it was the back, but there were all the freshmen, and there were sophomores, juniors, and then the seniors. Seniors were at the far end, right? And there were these group of girls in the back end, right? A group of seniors, and there was this one in particular who was just like, I mean, they were all this way, but they just seemed so mature, so poised, right? They were like 17, 18, right, about to graduate high school. And from my perspective, looking as a freshman, I was like just amazed by, like, their presence, their poise, their maturity, their peace, the way the sort of, gravity that they had, the presence when they asked a question. There was something very, like, subdued about them, I felt like as a freshman this need to, like, prove to the world that I existed, right? And they felt so sort of contained in their own space without that nervous energy that I felt. And now I think back on it, and it's like a 17-year-old with poise, with, like, I mean, these are people who still live with their parents. Like, there's no 17-year-old with the kind of confidence that I was sort of bestowing onto them. And it's like, is it all just relative? Like, who's right? Am I right? Was the freshman version of me right? I feel like as ages change, we constantly have this different impression of what that age is like. And it's hard, you sort of assume that the older person knows better. But at the same time, do they? It's just a different perspective. It's just a different... And to a certain extent, it's possible that a certain number of years you see so much and maybe your perspective actually gets a little skewed. Maybe I was right as a kid, thinking that I should be able to do anything I wanted to. Maybe I wasn't.